Did someone request a grand finals? One and all, welcome back to the channel. It's midweek muster number 5, and we are into our GFs. That's right. Don't need to go get one in real life. We got you for them in game. A grand final showdown, best of 7 between two of our best. Wham 01 in the red and Fox's Vortex in the blue. We start off with transhumans, and I feel like Vortex caught Wham with a curveball when he was trying to throw it as well. Vortex usually goes Ayyubids on this map. He pivoted to Rus, and Wham, instead of going for something like Jeanne, which he quite likes, I think he was worried about the Ayyubid pick, he switched to the Japanese. Interesting. So Rus versus Japan, I think this can work quite well with the hunker down Rus build. Japan might get the relics, but you can play into 2 TC quite quickly with all the passive generated resources, and you can be very efficient with Horse Archer scaling into things like Mountain Samurai. Yeah, so we'll have to see what Wham's able to do. I think what it comes down to is actually early pressure. I love this idea of going Coca Township and just trying to deny some resources. I think the tricky part, though, in this matchup compared to like any other one, is if you try to lean too hard into Shinobi, you fall behind. Because Vortex, realistically, with Golden Gate and a double hunting cowing opening, doesn't need to touch the gold. In fact, on average, I think we've seen players spend like 14 or 15 minutes before touching gold with Rus. It's a bit ridiculous. And yes, the reason why Wham is ahead, it's not because of villages, it's because of fishing boats. This is a very efficient player. I can't envy. No, this is very good for the Japanese, and the follow-up play is really nice. You got the farmhouses. You just start spamming the farmhouses out here because you can manually drop off at these houses. You don't have to worry about the extra walk distance of the boats going back to the dock, right? So it saves you a lot of time. Very powerful, actually, especially for Japanese. I think the 2 best civs at doing this are Japanese and Chinese. A third one that can be in there is actually something like French, because they're very cheap. But these are the best, because for the Japanese, by building a mill, you're basically building a house, right? So it's very efficient. You need these anyway. And then for China, what makes it really good for them is that they can supervise a mill. Little tip for you. If you want to make extra food, that does indeed work. Golden Gate coming in, though. Sheep Hall looking pretty bloody good for Vortex. 1 scout, and he gets 17 sheep. Meanwhile, only 10 for Wham. Wham, likely to go Coca Township, means less food permanence here. It's going to put pressure on him to remain aggressive. And also, am I being flamed for saying boat walk distance by Don? A guy that lives in the swamplands where realistically boats and people both walk? You know? Kind of unnecessary. I thought you'd understand. Coca coming in anyway. I imagine we're probably going to get like a second Shinobi added in, max. I just don't really see where you're meant to get value here. In fact, he could probably just save the resources if he scouts in time. He's already marching over, but usually the way this lines up is you're going to be, like, prepping a second one. We have dams. They don't work very well. Didn't you guys almost sink your entire country basically tapping too much natural gas? Farmhouse is coming up. You see what I was talking about, right? Like, he's hanging around. That's the only thing I don't like, is now you've taken some long-term value from the fishing play because you've gathered a 120, but he didn't want to just spam houses straight away. He wants to try and be efficient, right? So it does mean long-term you have less value out of the fishing play to gather. Meanwhile, this villager that's building all these houses could have been doing anything else, right? They could have been gathering wood. They could have been gathering gold, stone, food from the land. So, first Coca unit already coming. Love the play into Takazaiku. I think this is growing in popularity. It's just so good. Remember, with the recent changes in Season 9, they essentially buffed the gathering rate of the Japanese by buffing the base rate of berries. A lot of things were changed to balance out, right? Like, for example, the farms are only 20%, not 25% now from each aura level. But the percentage that you get from berries didn't get changed, which means gathering from berries once you have Takazaiku is equivocal to gathering from a boar. Actually better, right? It's equivocal to shoreline gathering for villagers. 0.99 versus 1. Vortex is going pro scouts. This is very unorthodox here, but kind of smart if you're worried about your opponent diving you early. My only worry is like the way he'll dive you is Mount Samurai. It's almost like you'd expect this against the Horse Archer play, because Horse Archers can't like dive in, right? They'll just die to standard defenses. But for Mount Samurais, it'll hurt, but they can still do it. So I think for Vortex to make this make sense, you're probably going to want to consider getting a castle turret, so that when you have to garrison with your wooden fortress, you just melt Samurai. And whoops, we forgot. Yeah, the food ran out, so he missed his timing. Basically, Wham will have like an internal clock on his brain of when to check the fishing to pull it back into the house. But if the fish runs out sooner, your internal clock is worthless, right? So he'll understand based on the gathering rate on the fish, he needs to check this like every roughly a minute for them to have gathered 40. But if you only gathered up to 20, you're never looking. So a little bit inefficient there. But now he's on the ones where he should be able to monitor it a bit better. He's got, what, 7 fishing boats? That ends up being 280 per rotation. So at least the first rotation will be clean. Shinobi arriving. Scout being a nuisance as well. Vortex may have to drop a run here. Yeah. And you can do that on the other one as well. Flowing Gate coming in, but look at the high trade house timing here. Vortex doesn't skip a beat. Courtesy of the power of the Golden Gate. Yeah, kind of wild, right? Like, Wham has 7 extra eco through fishing boats. The gather rates aren't that great, right? Between the hunting cabins and the Golden Gate, Vortex is able to compete. When you add in the fact that you get the gold from gathering on food as well, makes sense why he's able to mirror this timing, so. You be careful with that scout as well, because you're very injured. Vortex could just snatch it away at any point. In fact, I think it'll be worth him just going for that kill. Like, Wham wouldn't expect it. He's so busy trying to pressure, he wouldn't expect to get slapped like that. And then you're basically playing blind into the opener. It's presumably going to be Horse Archers, but you really want to confirm it too. Looks like Wham did end up diving the TC, so no vision on the front line other than that one Shinobi. Flowing Gate's coming in. Very far back, weirdly enough. Was he trying to hide it? Like, I'm not sure what the positioning was all about there. Ah. You know what it is, guys. Wham is thinking long term. So this is to guarantee that if the game goes late, he can have maximum farming at home, right? Because he doesn't have a landmark. Same with the Coker, actually. Like, he's very creative with this. A lot of players go for the optimal castle timing and don't give a damn about eventual farms. He has. The weird part is while caring about eventual farms, he didn't care about farmhouse placement. For example, Miyamaika, when he plays Japanese, he almost always leaves one tile to build a farmhouse, right? So he has farms around it. Looks like monks are on the way. 5 Horse Archers, extra been queued up. Wham does have his Mount Samurai coming in, and they are going to be very aggressively produced with the Urashura drop. All about momentum and control, right? We've seen in this matchup, sometimes players try to go for Horsemen, but going Horsemen against Roos is tricky because you trickle them out, and they don't feel very impactful. The initial Mount Samurai are always going to be better than initial Horsemen. Relics also now already on the way home for Wham. Where are you gambling? Because you're flipping a coin, right? On whether you go the right way. Let's go north side. So this is probably going to be, what, a 2-1 split in favor of Wham. He already has a second Shinto on the way, courtesy of actually building a shrine. So yeah, wow, that's kind of cool, actually. His timing is going to be 30 seconds quicker to gather the second Urashura than what you'd expect. And not just that, we have 2 TC from the Japanese. So this is a very big difference between these two civs. Japan is frequently more likely to go for a 4 TC in this matchup, or rather in its matchups on transhumans, whereas Rus, on average, have been dropping that second town center on their starting island. Difficulty with what Wham is doing here is it's very gambly. He's basically dangling his Mount Samurai so the play doesn't get revealed. And luckily for him, it looks like he should have bought enough time here. Yeah, the Mount Samurai definitely going to waste enough time here. Vortex, good micro there. Love that. Pulls back the injured front line. Shoots for the secondary. Just trying to get a little bit of a better trade. But even though Wham knows eventually these Mount Samurai are going to die, he's keeping critical mass down, and he's buying time for the static defenses. And a very important secure here. Berries, gold, that is perfect. You Wham probably went for the Euroshiro drop in the TC, right? No. What did he drop in? Wait, please tell me he didn't run the guy out with the Euroshiro? We've got stables. Oh, he's waiting on the archer range. Okay, so we have transition. I was a little bit worried there because I've seen players do that. It's very easy to get distracted. Horseman spam coming though. Is he just going to go Yumi? I think you go Yumi here. Which is kind of cool actually, considering your opponent hasn't switched yet. And when he does, you can switch Onimusha. In the meantime, Yumi should be able to address the horse archers. This doesn't feel great though. A relic not coming your way. Wait. Yeah, he dropped this one here, right? That's a big hit and a miss for Wham. So 2 relics grabbed for Vortex. Crossbow transition coming in. A little bit weirded out by the presence of Onimusha. Wham has assumed. And you know what they say about assumptions, guys? They make an ass out of you. You can tell I'm a father. So the problem here is you don't have a reason to build Onimusha. And you're on a map where your opponent realistically should have walled himself in, so you can't even argue that they can pivot to raiding. Yumi would have made sense. Like, you could have built a few Yumi and then not even necessarily vetted them, just use them as weird raiders instead, kind of silly. But the problem with Onimusha is if Onimusha run into horse archers, they'll lose. If they run into crossbows, they'll do okay, but crossbows can still beat them. I think the logic for Wham is being as mobile as possible. Because the nice thing as well about doing this is if you go 2TC, you only have Daimyo level 1. Which means an Uma Bannerman with this comp buffs your entire army. That's where horse archers can lose to Onimusha. But the difference is in scale. You will have a lot more horse archers than Onimusha because horse archers cost less. Pro Scout shenanigans still happening from Vortex here. Spearman from Vortex. I mean, he's reading this perfectly. You do not want to have to play Onimusha to spears. It's just too micro-y. And you micro hard and you don't really get anything for it, it feels like. Because the attack speed is so low, like if you keep trying to attack, you'll be gap closed, right? Kabutoya will at least allow a level of flexibility, but the problem with Wham's TC is you don't really have time. If this pressure comes in, you're going to have to make your stand there. Vortex, second town center of his own now. High Trade House, did we got numbers in? Give you guys a few seconds. I know you love this mini game. God, I still remember when that like started kicking off. I think it was like me and Nilly in a cast on King of the Hill, and we done on Legacy, and the chat went wild. You guys are addicted to that mini game. So, number is going to be 150 gold. Actually pretty damn good. Right, you're generating almost 2 relics worth. In a game where you already have 2 relics. Then you add in the hunting cabins on top of that, which is generating almost 40 extra gold. Sorry, 50 extra gold. 48 to be specific. There's a lot of passive. Vortex is basically just taking his time, going for kind of a stalemate to get his comp together. It's worrisome for Wham because the choice he's made, composition-wise, isn't about late game. Which is kind of unusual for him. Historically, he likes to play that late game. And funnily enough, usually Vortex likes to play the early mid. But the takes are different. Like, Vortex can fight stationarily. But he's got something that's meant to scale much better into the hyper lane. Whereas Wham going Onimusha and Horseman, I don't think you want to see Imperial with that comp. TC is going to be dove towards, has to turn around here. I mean, Sacred Sites could be a lock-in for Vortex from this position. Does need to sort the Warrior Monks. In the meantime, Wham is going to try to snatch those away. TC now getting pressured. I mean, with this many spears, you could seriously threaten to take this down. Surprised Vortex is even hesitant for a second. A guy who knows no chill. He's got to show that he's got none here. Horsemen are wrapping around the back though. Spearman, quick to mirror. It's awkward up against this tree line, right? Like really you want to come from both sides, but Wham, he only has 10 horsemen. Not impressive. This could impress, though. He's finally doing it. Yumi on the way now for WAM. Smart read as well. I think if you're going to win this game, in this current position, Yumi is the best way. You need numbers. Vortex has completely out-bloated you. 66 to 33 military. Yumi may not be good quality, but they counter units that exist here, and they are very cost efficient. Really wants to add in more archery ranges, though. Okay, no. He should be fine, guys. We have like 6 archery ranges worth of production. Wow, 7. To be 7.5 is about accurate. TC going down, though. I mean, this is expensive for a guy who's only built like a 10 villager lead, right? Against the guy who has 2 TC. So big losses on the forward here for WAM. Starting to wonder if it was really necessary to go for that type of TC. Vortex, the military lead is shrinking, but it's the quality of units, right? Like, WAM can't just reach equal numbers. He needs like a 1.5x multiplier. Yumi Bannerman also on the way to make that buffer better. Courtesy of the fact that he did get the Daimyo level 2. So we should start seeing the farms getting added in by WAM soon. And because he's going Yumi, he can just prioritize wood and kind of do that very fluidly. In fact, did he get the wood upgrades? Yeah, he's got level 1. No lumber preservation. A little bit surprising now that you're leaning this hard into mass wood usage. Probably a little bit distracted right now, though. Still arrow 2 on the way. Vortex still just traded so well. The tricky part of like this point in the game is actually ideally you want to be into crossbows. Crossbows are a good bread and butter unit in Castle. The problem is you're playing a Civ that doesn't have it. And you tried to play the alternative and it looked a little bit sad. Right? Onimusha, I don't think they work on campy maps. Transhumans is designed to make you come out, but it offers up a camp at the beginning if necessary, right? Canal can kind of be seen the same way, maybe to a more extreme. I think another one where Onimusha quite often kind of don't do what they need to is on Frisian. Because on Frisian, your opponent doesn't have to come out fast, right? And Onimusha are similar to horse archers, and they're all about tempo. Once the armies get too blobbed and big, this unit feels a bit weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird. You'd think Japanese would be maybe the weakest Civ in the current meta, considering the shift towards crossbows. But they still compete. They're definitely not like a top 6 or 7 Civ. But especially when there's some water involved, especially with these Conquer Township builds, they at least have some variance, some relevance, shall we say. Like what the information you mentioned makes me feel smarter, although I don't understand. Unequivocally, understandably, petromoniously, substantially. There, I said enough big words. If I just say, that's the thing, if you just say big words, people nod along, they just think you're smart. Well, we've hit a stalemate here. I think WAM's going Imperial. Which is kind of wacky, actually, for Elite Yumi. I actually think Elite Yumi can turn this game. This is the thing about Yumi. Using them well requires specific timing. They suck when you're in the hyper late game and you're both blobbed at 200 pop, right? At that stage, this whole idea of producing quicker doesn't really work out that well because your opponent should have like 10, 15 archery ranges. But... okay, scrap it. He's going samurai. When will they read it? This is the thing, though. If he had been going Yumi, I think the meta-arm scared him. But even then, like, you get the elite tech, your Yumi hit for, I believe it ends up being about 11 damage. So half deeps go through. Almost, right? I get it, though. There's a lot of meta-arms. What I don't get is this. Wow. Building into Samurai when there's already so many crossbows. I think he needs Siege if he wants to make this work. You can't just switch one unit. Yeah, he knows. You need to switch two. We do have another TC, guys. Because you know what they say. If at first you don't succeed, give up, you're a failure. No. Try, and then have Yoda hit you over the head and say do or do not. There is no try. Onobigisha feel pretty rough with your opponent having mass men arms, yes. It's also super food expensive. Onobigisha is all about throwing away a giant slab of food. Like, you know those people who have the Christmas dinner where they ordered like 15 turkeys and they eat like not even one? That's Onobigisha play. Right? You will get value over time, but you need to almost be aristocrat levels of rich to get away with it. And the problem right now is, especially with Coca Township builds, you don't really have that type of food income. On a water map, Onobigisha can make sense, but these days, Onobigisha is really in a weird place. And also, Onobigisha kind of got full-on crippled in the late game. Papa World's Edge took it back to their knees. Those girls, they swing it like they got noodle arms now. Because remember, with the Elite Army Tactics changes, it's now +4 melee armor. I actually think Onobigisha is like one of the worst late game units now. It's pretty sad. Dive coming in. Vortex trying to punish a free TC play out of Wham. Mangoes are arriving though, and wow, Vortex, he hesitates. He backs out. One mango is all it took to scare him here. Okay. Meanwhile, Samurai are intercepting reinforcements. That was a sick move. Wham. He can't fight the army directly, but he can cart the reinforcement wave with this army. And that's buying time, right? Vortex almost hesitating a bit too much here. Does have mangoes of his own, but he's buying time for Wham to get this blobbed up. And that's where Yumi can be very influential, guys, because Yumi can be great body blockers, and so many of them show up to guarantee that block. Behind this, though, I think the biggest worry I have is, like, farms. Vortex is, what, 14 deep? Sorry, 20. Wham is only 16, but he's straining himself. He's adding in, like, another 15. So we're going up to about 30 farms. This is the worst phase of the game for Wham right now. If he can survive this, his push should be stronger, right? He should be able to flood more troops, but it's a really big flood right now for Vortex. Dive coming in. Mango's a bit weird against Yumi, not that impactful. But they can counter the other Mangoes. Let the squishing begin. Brings him low, doesn't quite get the finish. Wham now with a pull to repair. Additional Mango is coming into play. Vortex is going to lose his forward momentum with Siege here. And at this stage, Wham just needs to flood more Yumi to hold the choke points. Crossbows moving in, spears, men-at-arms as well. Wham on the verge of being defeated here. He doesn't have the Shogunate to fall back on either. I think this is done. The Vortex has just got too much ground at this stage. The crossbow mass is too big. This Yumi idea would have been cool if you'd done it at the beginning of the crossbow mass, but you waited until your opponent was into men-at-arms as well. There's no comeback. Yeah, and we know how Vortex is. Like a dog with a bone, right? That just won't let go. The moment he senses weakness, the moment he smells blood, he pounces. Like a blood fox. There you go. We brought it back to the York. So that's going to be a GG. Game 1 going the way of the Spaniard. But don't worry, folks. We have got plenty of blood sport here in our best of 7 finals. Let me tell you, these boys have got some strong drafts coming out both sides. Let's see if we can keep up that tradition of, what, 6-game average grand finals for midweek muster? Oh, music to my ears. Well, Wham has watched the Tom Cruise movie Last Samurai too much on repeat. Weird. I think he's just processing the loss, guys. Like, this crossbow force is idling him out way too long. The difference in food is about to be, what, like 6x, 7x? Interesting strategy, though, from Wham. I mean, I think he did get, like, outplayed on the draft in the opening game. He was expecting Ayu, I believe. I can see that working a lot better. He's probably going to be wishing he picked that zone. But let me know what you think about this, guys. Rus versus Japanese. Do you have a Civ that you think should be favored in this particular matchup? Curious to see if a lot of people would lean Japanese. I feel like on a more open map, maybe, but you're still going to get into Horse Archer versus Onimusha, which should be good for Rus. I do think this Horseman build from Japanese would be better on open maps, though. On a map like this, I mean, your only play is Horsemen and Horse Archers, and it's just way too easy to set up a defense against that. I do feel like Japan needs something else. I don't know if I'd say, like, I don't know if I want to see that eco buffed. I think Fast Castle's too dominant, but it's also because they have nothing else. You need to kind of nerf the Fast Castle build's efficiency, but also give them something else to play with. Because this Civ, especially now that we're in a crossbow meta, feels in a very sorrowful state. One good matchup for Japanese. Oh, I'd say two. Japanese can do in French and Jeanne quite well. Okay, wow. What are we really waiting for at this stage? I mean, the first game is a scary advantage, right? Gives a very powerful dynamic to the flow of the draft. But that should be the final nail in the coffin that convinces him it's over. Spaskai Tower, now on the way. Is it me, or do we never see rocket launches anymore? Anyone else notice that? We used to always see Shogunate Palaces like every game. I don't remember the last time I saw a good old Shogunate. To think, several months ago at the start of the year, I even got to see like feudal age rocket launches. Now I don't even get them in Imperial. Well, we have a valiant last stand with archer ships, but I'm not really sure what he's looking for here. So, narrative gets off to a good start. Well, not for Wham. He's starting to look like always the bridesmaid and never the bride at this one. He won week number 1 of midweek muster, but has fallen short in every single grand finals since. The question now is, do you think that he can rally? Let's find out. I'll see you on the next chapter.